Okay, let's be honest. You did it today. You probably did it twice before lunch. You scrolled to the bottom of a 50-page document, saw that little box that said, "I have read and agreed to the terms and conditions," and you clicked it. You didn't read a single word. Nobody does. It's the most repeated lie of the 21st century. But here's the thing. It's not just about a software update or a new social media app. That accept button has become the default setting for our entire lives. We're living in an era of frictionless everything. One-click checkout, autoplay next episode, algorithmic feeds that know what we want before we even know it ourselves. It feels like freedom, right? Everything is so easy. But there's a hidden cost. While we're enjoying the ride, our thinking muscle, that deep, effortful part of our brain, is literally atrophying. Think about the last hour you spent scrolling. You probably saw 200 posts. Can you remember 5? Can you remember 3? We're not just bored. We're practicing a very specific kind of skill. The skill of being thoughtless. We aren't choosing our lives anymore. We're just accepting the factory settings. And that's exactly where things start to get dangerous. Because when you stop making the small decisions, you eventually lose the ability to make the big ones. Who is actually inside making your moral decisions right now? Is it you? Or is it just the default setting of the system you're plugged into? Let that sit for a second. Because today, we're talking about why your efficiency is actually a trap, and how the most decent people can end up doing the most damage, simply by being too busy to think. So, where does this idea come from? To understand our digital autopilot, we have to go back to 1963 and a woman named Hannah Arendt. She was a philosopher who went to cover the trial of Adolf Eichmann, one of the major architects of the Holocaust. Everybody expected to see a monster, a fuming, hateful villain with ice in his veins. But what Arendt found was actually much more terrifying. She found a guy who was just boring. He was a bureaucrat. He loved spreadsheets. He was obsessed with being efficient and following procedures. He didn't seem to have any deep-seated hatred. He just wanted to meet his KPIs and get a promotion. Arendt coined a phrase that shocked the world: the banality of evil. Now, the word banality, it's actually really interesting. It comes from an old French word, banal, which referred to communal things like an oven or a mill that everyone in a village used. It was just there, it was a utility. And that's what Arendt meant. Evil isn't always a grand cinematic choice to be a villain. Most of the time, it's just a decision to stop asking why. It's the decision to be a good employee, a fast worker, and a decent person who never questions the system. Arendt said the sad truth is that most evil is done by people who never actually make up their minds to be good or evil. They were simply and catastrophically thoughtless. This connects back to Socrates, the original annoying philosopher. Socrates used to say that the unexamined life is not worth living. But he didn't mean you should just meditate on a mountain. He meant you need to have an internal conversation with yourself. He believed that if you don't talk to yourself, if you don't have that two-in-one dialogue where you question your own motives, then there is no one inside to say no when the world asks you to do something wrong. Without that internal witness, you're just an empty vessel waiting for a default setting to be installed. Now, let's bring this into 2026. We don't have many bureaucrats in suits filing paper anymore, but we have something much more efficient. Algorithms. We are living in a state of algorithmic fatalism. We trust the GPS even when it tells us to drive into a flooded street. We use AI to write apologies to our friends because we want to skip the emotional labor of actually thinking about what we did wrong. We click accept on privacy violations because everyone else did. Here's the intellectual shocker. The most dangerous person in the room isn't the one with a weapon, it's the one with a deadline, a high-speed internet connection, and a total lack of reflection. Think about your job. How many times have you executed a task that felt slightly off, but you did it anyway because it was standard operating procedure, or because the system said so? We've split our consciences in two. We're good people at home. We love our kids. We rescue dogs. But at work, we're just optimized nodes. We outsource our moral labor to System 1, the fast, instinctive part of our brain that Daniel Kahneman famously talked about. Philosophy is the deliberate activation of System 2. It's the slow, painful, effortful process of dragging your brain out of the autopilot mode. Efficiency without reflection is the most dangerous weapon in history because it allows us to cause harm without ever feeling the ping of guilt. We're so busy being productive that we've forgotten how to be present. We're chasing viral trends and KPIs, but we're doing it with our eyes closed. We're becoming what some people call NPCs, non-player characters, in our own lives, just running a script that someone else wrote. And the scariest part? The script is designed to be so smooth, so frictionless, that you don't even realize you're not the one driving anymore. Okay, that's the heavy stuff. It's uncomfortable, I know. When I first read Arendt, I literally had to put the book down for an hour because I realized how many parts of my own life were on autopilot. But here's the good news. You can reclaim your system too. You can reinstall the internal witness, and you don't need a PhD in philosophy to do it. You just need to install some moral speed bumps. First, try the 60-second power off. Before you finish any task that affects another human being, an email, a social media post, a business decision, turn your screen off for 1 minute. Just 60 seconds. Ask yourself, how would I explain this to my 10-year-old self? If you can't explain it without using corporate jargon or it's just policy, you're probably in the thoughtless zone. Second, try a system override once a week. Deliberately choose the non-default option. Take a different route home without GPS. Use a manual tool instead of an automated one. Read a news source that you know will annoy you. The goal isn't to be right, the goal is to force your brain to engage with the friction of the real world. Finally, listen for the gut ping, that fleeting moment of slight moral discomfort, like a tiny hitch in your breath when you're about to do something efficient but wrong. The algorithm is designed to smooth over that ping. Your job is to catch it, amplify it, and ask it why. Philosophy isn't about having all the answers. It's about keeping the conversation with yourself alive so that when the system asks you to disappear into the machine, there's actually someone home to say, wait a minute. At the end of the day, thoughtlessness isn't a lack of IQ. There are plenty of brilliant people who are completely thoughtless. It's a lack of presence. It's the refusal to be a person who questions. We've been told that efficiency is the ultimate virtue, that the goal of life is to remove all friction. But friction is where the heat is. Friction is where the soul is. Reclaiming your system too, that effortful human logic, is the only thing that no AI and no algorithm can replicate. It's the only thing that keeps us from becoming the banal agents of someone else's destruction. So, here's my challenge to you. Stop being a node in someone else's network. The next time the world offers you a default choice, a prepackaged opinion, a one-click moral judgment, a frictionless way to ignore a problem, I want you to hit pause. Reclaim that space between the stimulus and the response, because that space is where your humanity lives. The next time you see that accept button, whether it's on a screen or in your real life, ask yourself, am I actually here? Because the terrifying truth is, if you don't start making up your mind to be conscious, the system will gladly make it up for you. The algorithm is waiting for your next click. But the question is, will there be anyone inside to say no?